and have a roll call. Let's start with Mike.
Yes, here.
Mike Curtis here. Cindy,
Here.
Tom Hoppenstead. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, he's on mute, yeah.
Tom Hoppenstead is here.
There
Adam,
he is.
Adam Zace is here.
hi, everybody.
Seth, before you get going, how do we reach you by cell phone?
Ooh, would you like my number? I'll give it to all of you right now.
That'd be great.
Okay,
774 228 0308.
Thanks. And I'd like 3 pounds of the chicken pot.
yeah,
Out of it.
and I'll take the ribs.
Of course, it'll all be ready for you. Where are you, Adam? You look like you're someplace sunny.
Well, I'm out in Colorado and it is sunny and it's hot it's like hot for Colorado, but
Right.
Yeah,
so skiing all day. So I'm missing hot tub time and
Well, we'll make it. We'll try to run through this
Yeah.
so you get to the hot tub before you're all worn
don't worry about that.
out.
What part of Colorado are you in, Adam?
Summit County, which is west of Denver, a little town called Frisco.
Yeah.
It's where Summit County is where Breckenridge, Copper Mountain, Keystone, and Arapahoe Basin are located.
I'm familiar.
Nice.
with it. Good, nice.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, home on Thursday after 4 weeks of this.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure
For
you've
2
missed
weeks of quarantine.
That's what it is.
even better. So at any rate, so I'll move right down the line here. So did you all have a chance to review the minutes from our previous meeting?
I did.
Did anybody have any
No,
comments?
I would make a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
That's it.
Adam, Tom?
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
I,
Give a voice on that. All right, good. Then the minutes are approved, and entered into the record. We've got public comment on the agenda before we go into any other business. Is that what I read here? And there's not really any public to comment. That's that for that particular thing.
I'm so used to Cindy filling this slot.
I know, they have to have somebody else come in, bring something else.
It's Cindy, yeah.
So anyway, old business then. So as on the agenda here, discuss the recommendations, the individual boards about the CIP plan policy during their February meetings. So I guess we'll start with fire commissioners. Adam,
Yeah, you know something, I actually, since I've been away, I'd have to defer, but I believe we're all in line with this. You know, I don't think that, it's a draft. The idea is to circulate this around and ratify this, I guess. I don't believe we've had a meeting about this specifically to enact it, but there's one on a week from tomorrow. So what we'll do is I'll communicate with everybody, as long as everyone is okay with me communicating with them by email over the next couple of days to ensure that this is on the agenda.
right. I think that you guys had already more or less reviewed and started to enact aspects
I
of
believe
this
so,
plan,
but I
right?
just don't think, Cindy, do you recall? I don't think it's not like we've had a roll call of the commissioners to say, yeah, we adopt this or we support this or something like that.
No, it wasn't on the agenda for the last month's meeting. So.
All right. So as long as everybody's okay with me communicating with my other commissioners to see if it's on the agenda, I think that's okay, according to open meeting law, to just talk about agenda items.
Well, if the chief is still here, he could put it on the agenda and talk to.
Is Paul, can we have that on the agenda?
Yes, it'll be on the agenda.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Paul.
And
Okay.
Tom, you guys had your latest meeting just of late. Did you discuss it?
We did, we brought it up and one of the commissioners hadn't had any time to read it yet. and so we deferred it, but we did have a little discussion about it, and there was some concern with respect to the flexibility of the plan itself. In other words, if you put together some capital items and you're looking at a 5-year window and something else comes up that you need to address more rapidly, how flexible is the CIP? And to us, it was explained, and I remember having this conversation with Silvio when we put this thing together, was, oh, it's completely flexible. It's a living document. But then we heard that certain members of the Prudential Committee think, no, it's a done deal. Everything has to be on there, and it has to be within 5 years, and it doesn't. There's no flexibility at all. So that raised a big red flag. And so we bumped it because one of the members hadn't had time to read it. We bumped it to our next meeting, which is at the end of March. And that's where we sit right now.
Adam,
Yeah.
I remember, Tom, Tom, this I think will jive with your memory. My recollection of this conversation with Silvio as well is that this is not meant to be inflexible. In 40 years of business, I've never seen any plans be, well, no, we can't do that now because
Because it wasn't on the plan.
like the water pump's broken. Well, we can't do that because the CIP says, well, it's not on the, I've never heard of that, anything like that in business. So I don't believe the intent was to make this ironclad to that degree.
Yeah, and that's and I talked to Silvio about that when we were in committee last year, and was assured, and I'm sure I still have the email as well, was assured that no, indeed, it is a flexible document, and it's meant to be.
was the
So-
concern? Oh, no, go
Go ahead.
on. Well, is the concern relative to language as it appears in the warrants if each of those, because we talked about it at the latest Prudential Committee meeting also, and that was, does it have to do with the inflexibility relative to ratifying a plan on an annual basis that has to be, accepted at the annual district meeting for a given action plan, and then how that varies based on,
Yeah, and how that drives the annual budget process and everything else that might come up, like, oh, shoot, we need a treatment plant for PFAS or something.
right?
Yeah.
So is it a matter of review, you think? You guys will try to,
Yeah, I think we'll massage the language a little just to make sure that it has some flexibility.
right?
At our next meeting. I do see that it is on the Prudential Committee meeting for the 15th as well,
It is.
right?
Yeah.
So you guys are gonna consider it at their next meeting. And I think I got commitments from both Scott and Mark to be at that 15th meeting, because that's at the budget meeting as
That
well.
is, I think, where we're meeting water and fire for,
Yeah, so we'll all be there. So we could
I'll talk about it then.
have some discussions at that point.
And Adam, what did you have?
Aren't these things sort of separate but related? Certainly, it's not lost on me that when we go to the annual district meeting, the warrants, these are for, if you have a 5-year plan, you're talking about presumably the first year, the budgets or whatever it might be. It doesn't feel to me like anything that is on the plan that is not part of a warrant or something that is at the ADM or anything like that is, those are, it's like with any ruling.
Right, they exist, they carry on beyond the
Those are the
point.
things that you think, okay, well, we're really pretty sure about these.
Right.
And every, years 2 through N are those things that you're not as sure about. You're certainly not going to budget in, let's say, this year for things unless you have to like prepave or something. But
Right.
so I think, Tom, Cindy, you remember these meetings. The intent of this was more to get a more consistent process in place that across the district.
I just have a comment I want to make. This started over 2 years ago. And it was supposed to be something just so that people would start planning and looking forward, because we had this study that sat unlooked at for over 20 years. And someone had brought it up at a policy advisory meeting, and we thought we'd move it forward. The year it started, Tom and Adam and I, we had quite a few meetings, and Silvio worked long and hard on developing this policy. And then he tried to bring it forth to the Prudential Committee, and it kept getting denied to be put on the agenda. I don't know what the pushback is, because Seth, you weren't on the committee, and neither was the other
Right.
new committee member, so we all know who the committee member is that's pushing back. So maybe we need to just ask, what are her concerns? And maybe at your meeting, you can ask that question. Fran, what are your concerns? Why is there such a pushback for a document that's been being worked on for 2 years?
Right. Well, Tom,
Just getting a meeting together, this committee, it took, you know what we went through, Seth.
right.
I think what I understood is maybe it's not Fran as much as Ray might have some concerns with the way the language is.
But then he gave us that information.
And so maybe the meeting on the 15th will give us an opportunity to air that out and discuss that.
Right, because when we talked about it briefly during our last meeting, which was whatever, last week, he did express that, he thought that some of the language wasn't not appropriate, but it didn't fit or whatever. So I asked him to come up with what his version of it would look like. And he's supposed to bring that to the next meeting. And I suppose if we're all together and he has his version, and, if the water commissioners have edits and the fire commissioners have edits, we can take a good long look at it all together and then settle it one way or the other.
Yeah, we just need to make some progress, because like I said, this is over 2 years. of
Right,
work.
2 years on.
Move forward or put it away. I mean,
Overall, I think it's we definitely need to have something like this. There's no question about it. I mean, we'll get everybody's opinion. We'll see what the finance department thinks about it, and we'll get a clear picture of it, and we'll move it one way or the other. We'll all have to vote on it separately anyway, and then bring it to the district at the meeting. So ultimately, we just have to get a piece of paper that is all of us on one page, and then put it out and say, okay, what is it?
right, because in order for it to get on this next district meeting, we need to settle it by April.
Right,
But
2
we're running
months
out of time.
or a month.
What are my concerns?
So that means, the 15th date will work for that, because that's when we're gonna be presenting draft budgets as well, so.
Now, are those going to be is that a posted meeting for all 3 boards all at once?
Well, I know that Jen was gonna make sure that we were posted for it.
Because we could theoretically, if we can all agree, if we get all the various interpretations or versions of it together, can agree on one and then vote on it right then and there and be done with it.
Yeah,
That would be wonderful.
yeah,
So
that seems like the ideal outcome.
Which date was that? There's so many dates that have been floating around. Is this
March 15th.
the 15th? Okay.
Because that'll give 2 weeks anyway for Ray
Yeah,
is together, and then for you to have your meeting. Or will it have a commissioners meeting prior to that, meeting of water commissioners and fire commissioners? No, just
We had one on the
fire.
9th.
You have one on the 9th.
we have one prior, but I think it's an emergency meeting. It's a specific meeting for personnel, because we have to get through the
Right, you're-
superintendent's evaluation and that kind of stuff.
Well, I think, overall, if that meeting is going to be the way it is on the 15th, then that should be fine. We
Yeah.
can get it one way up or down,
Yep.
and then still have time to include it if we're going to.
And I'll ask Jen to give our committee member who hadn't read it yet a gentle reminder to do so before the 15th.
Sounds good to me. What do you guys think on that? For this topic, I mean.
I would just appreciate it if we, could probably put this to rest either
One way or the other before the
annual
time
meeting.
for the district meeting.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so that's old business. So then new business, Cindy, you had distributed this draft of your proposed policy change relative to the public comment. Do you want to go over it or read through it or is anybody, or do we need to do that? Did you guys all look at it?
Well, I
or-
sent it to everybody, so did
Right.
everybody have a chance to read it? It's only a few lines.
As Seth is fond of saying, it seems pretty straightforward.
That's one of my stock phrases. I use that just to save time.
And I don't mean to say this, the water department already gives me the option to ask questions whenever I ask, so thanks, Tom.
Well, I mean, it is not lost on any of us that having a meeting that is sort of ad hoc questions can drag on. So before and after, well, like I said, seems straightforward.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think I mean, as far as the wording of it goes, it seems pretty straightforward to me. And there's maybe one thing that I would add to it. If we were to submit this for review, it would have, obviously, you Adam could take it to the fire commissioners and you, Tom, could take it to the,
What I think,
Oh, actually, it would just go right straight to your committee stuff.
oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
wait, Cindy, you're coming through a little muddled, so I couldn't hear that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, really, it doesn't have, this one doesn't really have to go through to all the other committees. It could go straight through to the Prudential Committee.
Yeah, no, I think as an organ of the Prudential Committee, this committee, it goes directly to them. But Seth, you as the chair, you'll have to figure that out. But one comment, I do think that part of the intent here is to draw people more into the process and potentially to allow for greater expediency of things that are discussed that come up during a meeting, because our typical cadence is every month. So I actually think it can help.
Right, I agree. So you say as the chairperson of this committee, it's my decision whether what.
No, I
this
think
particular-
if we could lean on you to find out whether
Right,
it needs to go.
Yeah,
where it's gonna go.
Just
I
goes
mean,
to your, Prudential Committee.
so I could move, I mean, should we move to vote to have it be advanced to the Prudential Committee? Just as a matter of record, and then I can ask for this to appear on the agenda.
If there's any other comments, Mike, what do you think?
No, it looks fine to me.
I mean, one thing that I may edit or would suggest maybe we put in is in the, the first line, it should be the policy of the Kewett Fire District that all committees and subcommittees add right there, be required to place public comment on their posted agendas. That's all,
Be
just a
Be
wording.
required. Okay, I can.
Yeah, be required to place public comment on their posted agendas. Strictly a wording thing.
If we need a
Well-
motion for that, I'll make a motion that the policy as written to be modified to include the words "be required to" after subcommittees and prior to public comment in the first sentence.
Yeah, I'd second that, Adam. That sounds smart.
Yeah, thanks.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. All right, well, so that's good. So what I'll do is I'll ask that this appear on the Prudential Committee agenda it may be too late for our upcoming one though, for the 15th, when we already have a pretty full docket, maybe for the following month, if that's not too far out. And if you want to discuss it with the fire commissioners or the water commissioners, just in, solidarity's sake.
Well, I think the water commissioners tend to
They've already gone well above and beyond.
they're
Particular.
above and beyond in terms of
Well, so that sounds good, I guess, as far as new business is concerned in that
No, no,
particular
there's
issue.
more.
Is there one more? What was the other one? Recommended,
It was the
document.
historical document policy.
oh, right, that was the third one. I'm sorry. I have it right here. Now, this one I have. You all discussed this at the last, when this committee sat before. did you discuss this particular type of thing, meaning a document that puts together and lays out the policies as adopted and recommended by the Policy Advisory Committee? Or is this
No.
something brand new? This is something that you,
This is new this year.
and so I guess what comments do we have on this? Do you all have a copy of it? You,
So
Okay, go ahead, Adam.
I was, sorry, Cindy. Since are you the author of this?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Well, then go ahead and explain.
Okay.
I'll
Well, we
hold my
discussed,
questions to the end.
we discussed it last meeting, and I just feel that there needs to be something that says what has gone forward, so that, like, let's say that what we bring forward for like public comment doesn't go through, so that we know, like, because it could be a whole different committee next year, they know that that was tried last year, so we don't need to worry about that maybe for a couple of years before readdressing it. Or let's say something is adopted, if there's no chain and it doesn't get followed through, people seem to forget. Because I'm having an issue right now with the bylaws. I wanted to get a copy of the original bylaws, and there's no one, the clerk doesn't have it, Fran doesn't know if there's one. So I really just feel for historical purposes that we need to have better record keeping.
Okay, so if I can restate what I think I heard you say and what I'm reading here, and is that you would, the proposal is that we have a policy to create, essentially, as it relates to just this committee's work output, a better record keeping of that work output.
Correct.
Well, seems straightforward, right?
yes, my words right out of my mouth, just like that. I mean, I understand. I think that it wouldn't necessarily, I don't think it's a bad idea. So it's essentially a historical document that will, something that will maintain. It's like I suppose, like a consolidation of, rather than going through the minutes and trying to, suss out what everybody was on about and what they had intended to do. It would, so would it be in the care of the, I guess, would it be in the care of the clerk of the district? Would it be in the care of the clerk of this particular committee? Who would be, I guess that's my question.
I would like it to be posted to the website as a document, and that way every year, whoever the committee is has access to it, so that they can refer to it, look at it, update it as necessary.
I think that would be the easiest thing. If we had a log of policies that have been advised, if you will, and enacted, like we have bylaws, like we have the agendas, or like all the ADM reports and all that kind of stuff. That would certainly technically be really easy.
Right, a matter of just posting it in addition, or, putting it on the website and having a link to it.
Exactly.
So what would be necessary, I suppose, then? So we, for instance, we have this document and we all vote to say, okay, this is a good idea. And then who would have to approve it? Would it be the Prudential Committee specifically? Would it have to be, I mean, and this just pertains to our committee, but
Right. Well, if we could approve it for this year, but the problem is for it to go on historically, it really needs to be approved by the Prudential Committee and then given permission to be put on the website, so that every year the committee could access it and the
Right.
committee could update it.
and then would that be considered a policy, or would that require a bylaw change of some
That would
kind?
be a policy,
It would just be an operating policy.
operating policy.
Yeah, I still think, Seth, that your committee needs to approve all the work product of this committee.
Right, and before it goes anywhere.
Exactly.
That makes sense, obviously, because it's a subcommittee. Well, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I would vote, to approve this, to then come to the Prudential Committee and be discussed and see what, how they feel about it. They feel about it. I would entertain a motion to approve this as a policy recommendation.
Would it be as simple as just having a document with all of the meeting minutes in it? And it's that way it's going to be chronological?
Well, the problem is with that, Tom, like, I tried to go back and like, if you think of something that happened, like I'm having an issue with the bylaw, I literally spent the entire weekend going through 5 years worth of minutes to see if I could find the item, where this would be a document you could just pick up, you see what date it was voted on, and then if you wanted to pull up that set of minutes to have more information, you could go to those minutes. It's sort of like an index.
Okay,
I mean, it sort of raises
okay.
things that are sort of operating policies to the same, not exactly the same, but to the sort of the same degree of visibility and transparency as bylaws. So if there was a section on the website that just said policies, in 1981, or fast forward in 2050, these people, this is what they thought about, and it was brought to the Prudential Committee, and it was enacted. If we had a historical record like that, that is similar to other historical records in our district, I actually think it would be a good thing.
I agree. I mean, so do we want to, I guess, in the interim, Cindy, or I don't know if we'd have to vote on it, but as the clerk of this particular committee, would you maintain something like this for this committee for the time that you're the clerk?
Yes, I'd be glad to. That's why if you look at the draft, I sort of gave an example, because what
Right.
I'd like to see going forward is you'd have this document up so people could look at it, and then in a sub-file folder on the website, you could actually have the approved policy when the Prudential Committee approves it. So it's in the
Yeah,
folder.
right.
So
Right.
It bears repeating that any policy that enters some sort of historical record has to be an approved policy. It's not just.
So why don't then, so, I mean, do we have to vote? So I would like, we could use this as a policy for this particular committee so that the people won't be in the dark about it as this committee goes forward and then into the future of the committee. And then we can resolve to take this to the Prudential Committee and discuss and see if it would be if we can enact it on a district wide as a policy. What do you think?
Sounds like a
That
good,
sounds reasonable, yeah.
So then who will move then to accept or adopt this and then move it along to my committee, the Prudential Committee?
I move that we accept the proposed, wait a minute, I have to switch screens here. Do we have a title of this, Cindy?
historical policies.
Okay, I move that we adopt the historical policy proposal as written.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
I,
Aye, Mike, Adam, Tom, Cindy, aye, Seth.
Yep.
So, all right, so as far as that goes, then I'll bring this back to,
now
Prudential Committee.
these things go to your other committee and
Right.
For discussion.
so I will talk to them and have them appear on the agenda as soon as is practicable. And we'll have to come back and reconvene and see what the outcome of that meeting will be. And in the meantime, Cindy, you'll maintain this document and ledger for us during the time that this committee sits in this version of it.
yep, I'll be
Yeah.
glad to do that.
And then we can see how that all turns out.
I think that should be a good exemplar of what can be produced and how that can be used and useful by residents current and future.
Absolutely. I think it's a good idea because, it never hurts to know if the same idea comes around 3 or 4 times and,
All the time.
gets close and doesn't go, and maybe it'll have its day.
We're doomed to repeat it.
I know, just the way it goes. So at any rate,
Through history.
so then that's the new business. That is the full, I'm not missing anything in the other new business aspects. And so are there any matters not reasonably anticipated by me or the chair that any of you want to talk about at this meeting?
Would it be possible to set another meeting, post your meeting in
Sure.
April, maybe for the end of, March, maybe the end of March or beginning of April?
Adam, what do you think?
I just couldn't hear her initially.
Oh,
So I think I heard you say you want another meeting?
In
Yes.
April, yeah.
you want to come back in a month's time?
Well, it depends on how long the snow holds out.
Well, it's over now. It's spring here. This is it.
Didn't we had a lot of snow while I was away.
Relatively speaking, yeah, I would say more than last year anyway, right? By a long shot. But
So
it's,
Cindy, I'll just push back with a question, and don't take this as anything other than, do we need to have another meeting?
Well, depending on what happens at the March meeting, it would be a nice way to just wrap it up and put.
All right,
everything
point
together.
taken, point taken. So we could have one in April. Seth?
so I think, yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I mean, at the very least, even if we get together for 5 minutes and say, there's nothing to talk about.
Yep.
It's nice to see you all. And
Yeah.
Here on next year.
Yeah, we need to at least, come to a resolution on the CIP
right.
after we get a chance to discuss it and hear from the other committees. And then that becomes part of our historical document, we put
Right.
it forward and it either was passed and modified or it was tabled for a later date, whatever.
That sounds good to me. So let's say if I go to my calendar here and then say what's the next Monday? The first Monday of April is the 5th. It looks like.
Easter Monday.
When's Easter this year?
I get
Before,
It's the 4th, really?
yeah.
Do you want to do it on the 5th or do you want to do it on the 12th? Is that a conflict though with
I-
any other?
I have no problem doing it on the 5th. I just
I don't,
was.
I didn't even know Easter was so early. Or is that late? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the moral of this. I don't know. So I'll say then, how about 6 o'clock, Monday, April the 5th?
That's fine.
That works for me, yeah.
That's
All right.
fine.
That's
That- We'll call that then. I'll say we'll reconvene April the 5th, 6 p.m. And Cindy, you can work on an agenda if there's anything in particular, if anybody has anything that you think you may want to talk about that doesn't pertain to what we've already discussed relative to all this CIP
I'll
stuff.
put one together early and then send it out, and you guys can send me any additions or deletions as you see fit.
And we'll have to see how everything goes after the meeting that's coming up in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
All right. So if there's no other unanticipated business, any public comment from the people in the public who are not in attendance tonight? Nothing there. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Second,
All right, there we go. All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
aye.
All right, well, thanks a lot, everybody. Sorry I was late. It was all